Everybody ready? Good morning. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land that we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment hearings are conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. With respect to hearing procedure, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with their presentation if desired. When committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Mr. Secretary Treasurer, do we have any minutes to approve?
Through you, Madam Chair, we have one set of minutes from our March 6, 2025 hearing. Present was Mr. Allison, Mr. Bartolo, Mr. Kubo, Mr. Nipfeld, and Ms. Sankar.
Thank you. Do we have a Mr. Kubu?
Yes, Mrs. Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to adopt the meeting of the March meetings.
Thank you. Seconder, Ms. Sankar? All in favor? Unanimous. And do we have any declarations of conflict of interest from the committee and/or staff for this morning's agenda?
I have one for the morning agenda, Madam Chair. I have one conflict this morning, Madam Chair. Item number 2, the planner on the file works on another file of mine outside of this for work, so I'll recuse myself from that file.
Thank you. Is that all? Nobody else? All right. And do we have any deferrals this morning?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't have any recorded deferrals, only in the afternoon.
Thank you. All right, I guess we can start with item number 1, 14 Almington Street. This is a consent to sever one lot into 2 and build 2 semi-detached homes. We have variances for front porch, south side yard setback, front canopy, south side yard setback, coverage, height of side main walls, building length, front yard setback, rear yard platform encroachment, exterior stair encroachment into the south side yard, rear yard setback, encroachment of a platform at the second story into the rear yard. On file, we have a survey, draft R plan, a cover letter, presentation, a development engineering memo, community planning report, urban forestry memo, tree protection and plan review memo, a form letter of objection from a number of residents on Almington Street, and letters of objection from 9 Silverton and 12 Almington. So we have the agent here with us. Please state your name and address.
Morning, my name's Noam Hazan of 14 Leswin Road.
Thank you. And before we start, do you have any changes to make to the applications?
No, not at this moment.
Thank you. So we do have residents, I think online. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience is here for this item. Yes.
I
Okay.
believe everyone is in person for this, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So if you could make a brief presentation on the application.
Sure, yeah, that would be great. If we can just do a full screen on that presentation that's on the screen. Oh, is that as big? Oh, okay. Okay, let's start. So we are of the opinion that the application does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance. And at the end of the document, we do have examples of lots of precedent for these variances in the neighborhood. If you could go to the next slide, please. We also looked at the section 51, subsection 24 of the Planning Act, and we do believe that this proposal meets all the relevant requirements for a consent under the Planning Act. Community planning, there's also community planning has also put forward support for this application, and we do have the City Councillor James Pasternak in the audience here, who is willing also to speak in support of this application. If we can go to the next proposal, and I will add that we did have a couple of meetings with community planning. We really tried to present a proposal that is in line with what they believed was a good fit for the neighborhood. So we are creating 2 semi-detached homes, and we are looking to sever the largest lot on that street. If you can go to the next slide, please. The neighborhood is very family-oriented. There's lots of schools, parks, synagogues. It's a really good transit hub. There's churches. We believe that this application would be really ideal for this type of neighborhood. If you go to the next slide, please. Under the planning, there is no minimum frontage, and also there's no area requirements either for this site. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit of background to the neighborhood, there's really two typologies of buildings there. You've got a lot of bungalows, a lot of very old bungalows that need work, and then there's a lot of very expensive custom homes in this neighborhood. So there is really a kind of, the two ends of the spectrum here. If we can just go to the next slide, please. And we do believe that this project typology is a gentle density proposal for this site. It does kind of create that sort of middle range, creates more housing options in this neighborhood, and does help with the affordability in terms of ownership in this neighborhood. So we are hoping that we'll have two families here instead of one family on this site. If you could just go to the next slide, please. And here are a number of examples across the city. The top right image is actually one that my client was involved in, where we've taken a larger lot and severed the lot for two semi-detached homes in a very typical single-family home neighborhood, and they all seem to fit in and neatly integrate into the neighborhood. Next slide, please. As of right, with the new bylaws, we could propose, fourplex plus a garden suite, have 5 families in this neighborhood. And while the city does support this, the EHON does call for gentle density, and we do feel that our proposal is really responding to that, specifically for this neighborhood. And we believe that the two houses, would be more appropriate than putting a large multiplex on this site. Next slide, please. And as I said, we work with the city to, our original proposal, we had a number of larger variances, more variances. We've reduced those and actually brought them down, and we've really tried to take feedback from the city on both of those proposals. On both sites. I will add that there was some attempts to engage the neighbours. I believe there was only a response a couple of days ago from one of the neighbours who was in opposition. But there were multiple attempts by my client to engage the neighbours, and with no response via email, I think phone call as well. I think that's really it. I will add there was a condition from the community planning to put screens on the back for privacy, and we are open to that, and I will accept that recommendation. Again, here is the appendix. There's lots of examples of precedents in the neighborhood where these variances have been approved. Thank you.
Good timing. Okay, questions from the panel? Any? A question about the urban forestry memo. They're recommending refusal of the application due to 2 trees. One is a street tree, I believe one is in the front yard. So what is the status of your discussions with urban forestry?
I'm going to have to defer to my client on that. I believe that it's to do with the tree protection zone in the front. If we are able to maintain that tree, then we will. But we may need to injure as part of the application.
I think they're more concerned with the tree in the front yard than they are the one in the boulevard, if I recall.
The memo's up on the screen if you want to see. So the recommendations are up in the first paragraph.
Right.
Okay, yeah, we're okay to those conditions. So it's just payment for the street tree, and then the second one, minor variance to be standard condition, permit application. Those are acceptable.
I guess the question is there the ability to save the, I think it's a Norway maple in the front yard, or is that?
I'm not sure. Do you remember if we can save the front tree? I think we can. I don't think we're in the TPZ zone, but. Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's outside of the TPZ or just on the edge.
Okay.
We'll have to look at that further, but, we'll do what the forestry recommend on that.
Well, Madam Chair,
Well,
it's-
they're recommending refusal, so.
Right. So, okay, so we'll maintain that tree then. I mean, there's not, I think we'd have to. And if we have to shift the step back slightly to accommodate that, then I think we will.
Okay, any other questions from the panel? Anybody? No? I guess we will hear from residents then.
Okay.
And so in the chamber, do we have somebody to speak? Counselor?
Good morning, members of the committee and members of the public. My name is David Packler, Councilor Ward 6.
I don't think the microphone's on.
Good morning again. Good morning, members of the committee, members of the public. I'm James Pasternak, Councilor for Ward 6, York Center. This property is in my area. I'm here to support the application. I'm here to support the severance and the future plans for this parcel. It conforms with Housing TO and the Toronto Housing Strategy, which is a philosophy and building effort that increases affordability, increases supply, and helps young families find a home. It falls in line with many of our other housing changes over the years, including the approvals of multiplexes, garden suites, laneway suites, and of course, the existing basement apartments regulation. This application is being brought forward by a local responsible landowner who will respect the local community in building, and that the staff itself in the report are supportive of the application. And I quote for you on page 3, quote, "Staff are of the opinion that the proposed severances satisfies the requirements of section 51-24 of the Planning Act." And it goes on to say, "Staff are of the opinion that the consent meets the criteria under the Planning Act and the minor variance applications are minor in nature, are desirable in nature, conforms to the general intent of zoning bylaw and the general intent of the official plan." I would also like to conclude by saying that it fits very nicely into the National Housing Strategy Act, which is, of course, embedded with the right to adequate housing. The housing is essential for the dignity of the person, and that Canada is obligated to build housing where it can and how it can. So with that, I would simply conclude that this meets all the requirements. Staff have supported it. It aligns with the City of Toronto housing strategy and many provincial strategies to create new supply, to create new opportunities for young families, and to build in a responsible, dignified, and respectable way to the local community. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the speaker?
Yes, Madam Chair.
No?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Kibu.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Hi, Councillor. It is quite unusual to have council. We generally have letters of support, but it is quite unusual to have councils present to support, to actually verbally support the application. So I was wondering if you know the applicant personally, or what is the overall interest of you making this public support in the, before this committee?
Well, if I had any kind of conflict of interest or personal interest in this development, I wouldn't be here. So I do know the property owner, as he is an outstanding resident in York Center, a person who's very involved in community building and used to own a restaurant at Bathurst and Wilson. So I have known the property owner over the years. But as for any kind of vested interest in this development or in this property, I have none. I am here when I'm asked to be here by a resident who has a application that's supportable. And I know that some of my colleagues also come to this committee in other areas of the city to support strong local applications.
Mr. Swartz.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, before I ask my question, I wanted to thank the councillor for attending today. I recognize that this is an application that has some opposition by residents, and I appreciate that the councillor attended because effectively, in my view, this may not be everybody's view, the councillor is sticking his neck out here because some residents are opposed to that, and I really appreciate the councillor taking a stand and coming here and presenting to us, so thank you for that. Now my question. So since there are some opposition from residents, and I recognize you've made your presentation, but here you've got effectively two sides. You've got a developer who wants to build, and you've got residents who are signed a form letter, but I think one of them is going to be here. And presumably, I don't know if you've met or talked with them, but I just wanted you to maybe expand on that. How do you balance, because we're actually going to be doing the same kind of thing that you do. We may not come to the same conclusion you did, but maybe you can help us in your thought process and how you came to the conclusion that you would support this when you know some residents are opposed. And again, thank you for appearing here because I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, no, thank you for your question. It's a good one. There are many times over the last 14 years as a city councillor where we cannot reach unanimity on local issues. And it is my responsibility to lead and to make a decision and to try and make the right decision. Early in my years on council, we had proposals for semi-detached or semis built in Bathurst Manor. And there was enormous objection, but at the end of the day, they were built and everybody moved on. It provided a unique housing option for those who wanted to own a home. I think the best way to go forward is to respect the local community, to understand what their concerns are. And when you build with respect. You make sure that your construction management plan respects the local community, that debris are not flying all over the place, that there's proper screening and fencing, which of course is here, that we preserve trees wherever possible, and that we listen and learn. But if we were not to build, if we were to listen to every objection about building in this city, no houses would ever be built. Because there are people who do object to many of our applications, if not most of them. I could go on, but I don't want to take up the committee's time.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think I've got a sense. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks very much.
I believe we have someone online to comment. Is it Miss Mallon? Okay.
Hi, I'm not sure what you can see or what I can see.
Could you
My
speak up a little bit, please?
major
It's hard to
concern-
hear.
Sure, my major concern.
Sorry,
with some
could you,
of the
sorry,
variances-
could you just state your name and address to start?
Oh, sorry. It's Ruth Mallon from 9 Silverton Avenue.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so my major concerns are some of the variances regarding the amount of coverage. What's happened to my property every time there's construction in this area, it causes another drainage problem, causes my property to flood. We all know that this area has a problem with a high water table. And I have been trying for a very long time to find out where is the drainage from this area supposed to go. When you do anything in your property, you can see the old pipes where there was a drainage system between the two streets, Almington and Silverton, at the back at one time. Now, every time there's construction, that gets damaged. I know personally when I want to do something, there's rules about how much softscape I have to have. There's rules about how close to my neighbor's property I can go. And every time those get changed, people like myself's property get damaged. So I'd like to know a little bit more about what you're planning on doing about an issue that we know exists already. And the comment about affordability, can you talk a little bit about how affordable these new homes actually are going to be for people? Or is it just severing and we have homes at the same pricing as the examples that you've shown already?
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
It does say that Mr. Idell's is on the list. However, it just appears that they want to watch and not speak.
Yes, I see that. Okay. Then we'll go back to the applicant, and perhaps you could address the residents' concerns that were just mentioned.
Sure, thank you. We went through all the concerns, not just from this resident, but the other residents as well. A lot of the concerns are relating to non-related variants, like things that are not related to minor variances, including the flooding that this neighbor has experienced in her backyard. We will obviously consult with engineers and architects as ourselves and the appropriate consultants for this project that we will apply with consideration of the building code. And obviously, as part of the building permit process, we have to engage a grading surveyor to ensure that the rainwater runoff is not going to impact the neighboring properties. So I think from that perspective, the neighbor shouldn't have any concern with regards to our proposal to her site. And anything in that regard will be mitigated as part of the construction process and the permitting process. So really, I think there was a couple of other concerns on there. I've just jotted them down. So, construction disruption. So that was one of the other concerns. Obviously, that goes with any project, regardless of the variances that are associated with it. I didn't hear the last comment. I think it was to do with the affordability of the...
Affordability of the semi-detached proposal versus, I think...
Right. So yeah. So I mean, I think the lady's point was that is it going to be just as much as a custom home? I mean, the market really dictates that sale price. I mean, you don't find a comparable semi-detached price for a house than a nice big single-family home. I think there is definitely a reduction in what my client can sell that property for as a semi. And I think he is aware of that. But it does provide what we believe will be somewhere in that middle range between an old bungalow and a high luxury custom home, essentially.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the applicant before we go into committee? No? All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll take this into committee now. Anybody want to have any comments or want to speak to the application? Mr. Swartz?
Well, I'm willing to say a few things. Like, I mean, it appears that there's a little bit of controversy here, but I think it's really because it's not necessarily because the application doesn't meet the four tests. I kind of think it does. I think what we've got is something that's sort of new here. And our job is not to get the most perfect building on a site. Like, we're not here as a committee to say, well, yeah, something could have been better. It could have been better to build a single-family house that was, without any changes, without any minor variances. Our job is to try to look at does it meet the tests? And we already have a staff report that suggests or that says it does. And I think we're safe to defer to that line of reasoning because I think it does too. And I think it also provides sort of a balance of what you could do as of right compared to what you could do otherwise. You're meeting a social purpose by adding in some housing. It looks like it's going to be quite quite acceptable housing in the sense of not highly dense, but sort of an increase in density from where we are now, but not over the top. So I think subject to the provisions of the request by a recommendation by urban forestry and those of planning stuff, I think that this does meet the four tests. I think it's beneficial to the neighborhood and better than what could end up being there if we didn't approve it. So I would support it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I will just add that I think it's a good response on a lot like that to divide, rather than have two houses that are tall and skinny, to have the semi-detached with the two units. I think it's a good example of doing a consent that makes sense and fits in with the neighborhood and, as the applicant described, gentle intensification. So those are my comments. Would anyone like to comment or make a motion?
Well, I'd be willing to make a motion based on the comments I just made, which is to approve the application and consents, subject to the, so now forestry had recommended a refusal, but I think that their refusal was predicated on the tree, and the applicant has already said, staff, yes.
We can put the memo back up through you, Madam Chair, but if you were to approve it, I believe there were conditions. If you want to see them,
Yeah.
we can put them back up.
Thank you, please. So there are conditions on the consent and on the two variance applications differing. So Mr. Swartz, would you,
Well, urban forestry memo. I thought there was a letter. Yeah,
yes, yes.
right, okay.
So I think it would be subject to the conditions to the corresponding parts.
Right, so staff, would you like me to read that in, or do you want me to just say?
I think we're okay. If you want to just say the forestry conditions as attached in their memo,
Okay,
I think we're okay. Thank you very much for checking in. And I think if you want to see the other memos that have conditions, we can put them up as well. I think there's engineering and community planning.
okay, well, it might be, so my motion is to approve, subject to the following, subject to the recommendations contained in the letter from Urban Forestry dated March 26, 2025, and then also subject to, maybe put those up and there's the engineering, would engineering be next? There's a letter from engineering with conditions, recommendations, okay. Is that on page 2, 3? Okay, so let's go back to urban forestry. So my colleague has pointed out, just to be clear on urban forestry, so So Urban Forestry has recommended a denial somewhere in their letter, but they have also said, and I believe I was referring to this, in their second paragraph, if I'm correct, they're saying, in the event the consent and minor variances are approved against the forestry recommendation, forestry request. So it's subject to the conditions in paragraph 2 of their letter, March 26, 25. Is that clear to staff, or do I need to? Okay.
Yep, we're pretty good. Thank you very much for that.
And then we have some other recommendations, I believe. So we have the engineering. And in engineering, trying to find exactly, they're making the recommendation on page 3 of their letter dated, you're on community planning now? Okay, sorry, I was looking at a different one.
No, he's on DevEng. They're on development engineering right now.
Development engineering? Yes, okay, so you're on the same thing that I was on. All right, so again, subject to also the condition of engineering contained in their memo dated February 21, 2025, which provides a paragraph at the top of page 3 for recommendations. And so it's subject to those recommendations, which is the same as what I'm looking at now. Is that,
And then there's community planning recommendations, the standard conditions for consent.
okay, and then the standard conditions for consent by community planning
And then there are specific ones for the minor variances.
Right.
for the minor variance.
We can put those up as well.
The screening, the privacy panels for the
Yes.
balconies.
So subject to the conditions in the letter dated April 7, 2025 from the city planning staff, including the standard conditions and the condition in paragraph 1 on page 2 about opaque screening and fencing, or fencing. Have I gotten them all? Okay. Okay, so that's my motion. So it's motion to approve, subject to the conditions and the reports that I've identified.
Thank you. And the seconder, Mr. Bartolo, all in favor? That is unanimous. The application has been approved. Oh, yes, okay, thank you. All right, item number 2. 100 Alfred Avenue. This is a consent to sever into 2 lots with associated variances. We have variances for lot coverage, area of a platform at or above the 2nd story, number of stories, west side yard setback, east side yard setback to the front and rear platforms. On file, we have minutes from the meeting of January 23rd, 2025, a survey, draft R plan, cover letter, plans, arborist report, shadow impact presentation, urban forestry memo, engineering and construction services report, TRCA comments, heritage preservation services comments, and letters of objection from 98, 100, 110 Alfred Avenue, one from 127 Hollywood Avenue, and 2 letters of objection with no address associated, and a petition from 102, 106, 108, 111, and 112 Alfred Avenue. Do we have our applicant with us?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Barely. Can you speak up a bit?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Could you please state your name and address first?
Certainly. My name is Chris Pereira. I am located at 25 Valleywood Drive, and that's in Markham, Ontario.
That's better. Thank you. And do you have any changes to make to the application today?
Yes, Madam Chair. So this item was previously deferred from January, and the reason for that deferral was to allow for the opportunity to meet with the owners of 98 Alfred Avenue to discuss concerns that they may have had. As a result, a change was made to the west side yard setback of 100 Alfred B, which shares a property line with 98 Alfred. This was increased from 1.2 meters to 1.5 meters to help alleviate any concerns about proximity of the proposed dwelling. A privacy screen was also offered for the deck to limit any overlook.
All right, thank you. Staff, do you need to identify the variance based on the variance notice? Or are we okay with that? That west side yard?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Madam Chair?
Sorry, I'm just saying, do we need to, the applicant has made a change to the west side yard setback. Do we need to identify which part of the variance?
Yes, you do, please.
Okay.
So it's part 1 or part 2, and the variance number according to our public notice, please.
So to the applicant, I'm looking at part 1. Is it part 1 or part 2? That you've,
Madam Chair, it would be 100 Alfred B, which is, I'm not sure if that's counted as part 1 or part 2 here. I believe it's part.
I'm getting comments from the audience saying it's part 1. Yeah,
Yes, it's part 1.
Maybe we
Yeah,
could
exactly.
pull-
98.
okay.
Yeah, it is part 1. Yep.
Okay, there, we have the image on the screen, so you can just confirm. So part 1 appears to be adjacent to 98. So number 98, so I think, yeah. So if I am correct, I'm looking, it looks like a variance 5 for part 1.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, so just to, yeah, we're going to put it up, and we'll just go through, we'll just double check, oops. We'll just double check to make sure if staff could scroll down to the west side yard setback variance. So just to confirm, variance 5, correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
And you are, just if you could just reiterate the change?
Certainly, Madam Chair. So originally in January, we had a 1.2 meter setback on the west side. And after meeting with the neighbor, he expressed some concern about the proximity of the dwelling. So we increased it to 1.5 on the west side.
So on the variance application, it says 1.52, and I assume you made this before the application was recirculated because it's showing 1.52. So you're not changing the application here on the floor. It was already changed?
Exactly, Madam Chair. That's correct. It was changed, and then we did a resubmission, and now the new drawings should be what you are looking at.
Okay, and so there are no other changes to part 1 or part 2 variances that you are proposing to change today?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, also, sorry to interrupt, through you, we have a correspondence from Community Planning and the old staff report, if you would like to see that.
Yes, we probably should have a look
Yeah.
at that. It's not in the package, is it? I don't think, right, okay. So it's up on the screen now. I think you can scroll down to the recommendations. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. So you, just to clarify, you have had discussions with planning staff since that January 23rd meeting, but staff comments still remain. So you were not able to come to some resolution with staff. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, we can put up a follow-up
that's correct.
email. I just emailed it to you.
Okay, sorry, we're just putting
So,
up.
Madam Chair, to answer your question, the staff recommendation and report, although we spoke with staff since the changes, staff have not changed their original recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a number of neighbors. Is anyone in the audience for this item? Oh, can't see you behind the podium. That's okay. Just hold on one sec. We're going to let the applicant do a presentation, a brief presentation, and then you'll have an ability to speak. But we do have a number of people here to speak to the item. So go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I may ask, I would like, while the applicant is making the presentation, I would really like them to address some of the issues raised by the staff report to give us a better idea in making an informed decision.
Did you hear that?
I did, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, so go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I had started off by saying, a number of changes were made. One change was made to address 98 Alfred's concerns. But to get to the nature of the application, it should be noted that while these are described as 3 stories under the bylaw due to the exterior front stairs clearing the garage in the basement, which then becomes the first story, this is actually seen frequently in the street. 108, 110, 111, 112, and 115 Alfred all have this shared design intent. However, for any practical purposes, these are 2-story dwellings, and this is evidenced by the proposal's compliance with the maximum 10-meter height limitation. Now, specifically speaking to the staff report, while we certainly respect staff's job and their position, we respectfully disagree with their recommendation on this particular item. Staff heavily rely on OPA 320 effectively and the test of compatibility and fit of the lot size and frontage within the area. And in their view, as noted in the staff report, they don't believe that there is a fit. However, we've found that the immediate context and the broader context contain a variety of lot frontages as low as 9 meters, which is consistent with our proposal. That can be found on Elmwood Avenue, Kingsdale Avenue, Parkview Avenue. And also on Alfred Avenue itself, there are lots with 12-meter frontages. So between this range of anywhere from 9 to 12 that are found in the area, we believe that 2 smaller singles that are mimicking the 9-meter frontage continues to maintain the intent and built form character of the area. Now, in terms of the 4 tests of minor variance, as I had said, the proposal maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. It proposes a development that is materially consistent with the built form character, that is detached dwellings. It is also consistent with the physical character of the geographic neighborhood in both the broader and the immediate context, as I kind of outlined in terms of lot frontages. In our assessment, the built form character of the area, we note that there are a number of existing lots that are comparable to the proposed as they already exist. As such, we believe that the proposal will respect and reinforce the single detached character while taking on performance standards that already exist in the area. In our opinion, this application represents precisely the type of gentle and seamless intensification anticipated by the official plan. In terms of the test on zoning, the proposal proposes development standards that are in keeping with existing lots and dwellings within the vicinity of the subject lands, as I previously noted. The proposal also represents the appropriate development of the lands. It is minor in nature, as the relief being sought would result in lots and dwellings that provide a very sensitive, gradual, and general fit with the existing physical character of the area, specifically a number of those lots that have municipal addresses on Alfred, as I had mentioned earlier in my presentation. So based on that, we do believe that the proposal will very much respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood. And I must emphasize that the test of the official plan is not to mimic or copy what's in the neighborhood. The test is to find something that is compatible and fits with the existing neighborhood. And in our view, a lot with, or two lots in this case, with frontages of just over 9 meters, 9.14, I believe, that those lots do fit with lots that are both within the broader and the immediate context. So in conclusion, Madam Chair, we believe that the proposal meets the 4 tests of minor variance. It provides a very modest form of intensification, and it is done so in a manner that is consistent with the built form character of the neighborhood. Lastly, we have reviewed the forestry and the transportation comments and agree with the conditions outlined therein. And with 15 seconds left, I will say that I am available to answer any questions that committee or any residents may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Panel, does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Ms. Sankar? Go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask, so in reviewing the previous staff report's message, sorry, I'm hearing an echo, so I'm pausing to make sure you all are hearing me correctly.
We're
I'm hearing an echo.
No,
Okay.
we don't have an echo.
Thank you. All right, perfect. So just wanted to double check if there's anything within the staff report. I'm presuming that they had talked about this not meeting the character of the neighborhood. And I've heard Mr. Pereira go through some of the details of where there has been this type of severance and development within the area. But looking at the information here, I'm not seeing sort of a map that displays that. I just want to be sure, was there any map that he could point to or may have shared with us that shows that this has been, sort of the character of the neighborhood? If that makes sense.
Through you, Madam Chair. So I don't have a map readily available to show those, but I think if we're all familiar with the stretch of Alfred Street that ends with the cul-de-sac, as you move to the east, you'll see a variety of new houses that have been built within kind of more recent times than the surrounding houses around them. And those houses, the 5 or 6 that I had listed off, all do maintain the exact character, not only in terms of the lot frontage and generally the lot sizes that are very much compatible, but the design of the houses themselves, which include the raised front stairs to clear the garage, and then the garage becomes like the ground basement level. You'll see the houses, as you move closer towards Dudley, the last 3 on the north side, and I believe 2 of the 3 on the south side, all maintain this exact same, very similar design intent, with the stairs kind of clearing the garage and then going to a raised, first story, which is, conceivably considered the second story, which is why we have one of our variances for the platform at or above the second story. It's not actually at a real second story, which is kind of the point of that clause, is to limit large balconies off of a bedroom, but it's only called the second story because of the stairs to clear the basement, which becomes the basement ground level, which technically under zoning becomes the first story. So the house is very much consistent, and both house designs are very much consistent with some of those newer constructions, 5 or 6 houses down from this proposal.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Let's move on to our residents, and we'll have the lady in the audience first. Just make sure the mic's on, and if you could state your name and address to start, please.
Good morning. My name is Maiko Borelli. I live at 98 Alfred Avenue. So my husband and I, we did have a meeting with Mr. Pereira, and as he explained, we had discussed the two variances. The first one is, this is all for part one. So number two, which is the amount of area of the platform, which is listed currently as the allowable amount is 4 meters squared, and he is proposing a platform that is 10 meters square. We are opposing this because he did explain that it's listed as a second-story platform. Mr. Pereira, could you remind me of the height of the platform, please? I believe it is 7 feet above ground.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's about from established grade. We calculate about 2 meters. So yeah, that's close to or around 7 feet, which is very much consistent with some of the other rear decks for those properties that I had already identified.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
Madam Chair, questions should only come through you, to you.
Okay, that's okay. We'll carry on. That's, you can carry on with your presentation.
Thank you. Okay, so as he mentioned, the height of the deck is proposed to be 2 meters above ground level. Sorry, I work in feet a lot. This is about 7 feet. Bylaws for fences are 6 feet. And so we are worried about lack of privacy in our backyard. In our previous residence, we also had a new build go up with a very similar building style, and the platform basically looks right into our backyard. You cannot build a fence physically high enough, according to bylaws, to prevent this lack of privacy. And so what we are requesting is that he abide by the 4-meter area, because at least in this situation, it will discourage large gatherings that can look down into our yard. We're hoping that the platform be used as like an exit out of the rear of the house, and then stairs down, and then all of the gathering take place at ground level, which would then not be a privacy issue. So the fact that they are trying to more than double the size of the area of the platform is a concern for us, because it will increase the number of people who can gather there and look directly into our backyard.
Thank you. Are you done? Any questions for the resident? No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
One
Kubo?
question, please. So if I get you right, this application was deferred for you to be able to speak with the applicants, and you've spoken with them, and their concerns about lack of privacy, and then the increase in the property side. Is that the case?
Well, we actually spoke to the builder before the January date, and we expressed our concerns. And he said that he would go back to his client and speak to them. We didn't hear back until the day of the January date. And so I actually came here and unaware that they had deferred it. So I wasn't aware of that. And we haven't spoken to him since that date. So all we know is that based on our first meeting, he did make changes, as he mentioned, to number 5, because the west side setback was a concern. And we compromised with him on that one, because we actually are not asking for the full. But there was still no modification made to number 2 at all, which was actually quite a concern for us, because as I mentioned, that happened to us at our previous house. So we know exactly what it feels like to have people staring at you into your backyard.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I think I'd like to ask.
You want to ask a question? Okay, go ahead.
So just, I'm just concerned about the privacy issue. and maybe I'm missing something here, so help me out. Sometimes we ask for privacy screens. Is that something you discussed with the applicant, or is that something that might alleviate your concern?
We did speak with him about that. I think he mentioned in his presentation that he said that he would be willing to. I don't know how, I mean, other than a verbal confirmation that I heard today, I'm not sure how we would ensure that that happens. But to be honest, between the choice of reducing the size of the platform or getting a privacy screen, we would prefer the reduction in the size of the platform. Again, we're not asking for a major change. We're talking about an exterior structure that would exit. They would probably still have space to put a barbecue, maybe one person there, but we're trying to avoid the whole, let's put an entire dining table. Let's have our entire party up there. I'd like it to be more of a, can you come down into your lowered ground level deck and then enjoy the space there, just to avoid having many people above. And as I mentioned, the deck is 7 feet. It's above any fence that you can build. There's not really much that we could do in terms, not just people looking, there's going to be noise with larger space. As you can see, they're asking for 10 meters square, which is not a small enlargement. It's supposed to be 4 meters square. So this is more than doubling the size of the deck that's supposed to be permitted on a second story.
Okay, but a privacy screen may alleviate some of your concern, but not all of it.
Right.
But it has the potential, depending on how it's constructed. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then again, I guess would they have to write that into their plans?
Well, it'll come back to us.
Okay.
So
All
we'll
right.
ask him some questions about it too.
Thank you.
Possibly.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to our online residents, please.
Madam Chair, we have unmuted Loretta.
Are you there, Loretta?
It's Loretta Koo from 106 Alfred. I already submitted the petition to object the building of 2 houses by severing the 100 Alfred lot. Right now, I just have one question. In North York, most of us are aware of the project to build a number of high-rise, mid-rise, and low-rise buildings along Yonge Street and the neighboring street. Obviously, the population density will increase tremendously. Why do we want to add more building structures to the foreseeable congestion on a quiet street like Alfred Avenue by severing the lot to build 2 narrow houses that have variances to the zoning bylaws? So
All right.
that's my question.
Okay, and we'll let the applicant address that after we've heard from all the residents. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Next.
Madam Chair, staff have tried to reach out to the residents of 110 Alfred and 108 Alfred without any success. We will move on to a Terry Hyatt.
Thank you. Terry Hyatt, are you there?
Terry Hyatt was a call-in. They were unmuted. Their cell phone was unmuted, and now they have disappeared.
Okay.
So,
One more. Is there Brenda Watts?
yeah, we can move on to Brenda Watts.
Sure. Hello. Ms. Watts, are you there? Right. Ms. Watts, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Name and address first, please.
Okay, perfect. Thirdly, so it's Brenda Watts, 127 Hollywood. It is our backyard that adjoins onto the 100 Alfred. And I sent in a fairly concise, albeit brief, reason for the rebuttal. But largely it is just I do not understand the size of the homes that are being put up. I don't believe it would even marry to the fire code, having that proximity between the properties. But more importantly, I'm looking at that beautiful pine tree, the beautiful oak tree, and the intrusion to both the neighboring properties and our own backyard. So like the previous caller had said, balconies coming off the third story, there's no reason for a house to be that high. It interferes with our sunshine, it interferes with our privacy, and it's frankly quite rude. So there is a property at 325 Hollywood Avenue, beautifully done, same concept, still occupies 2 families. I would encourage the builder to go and have a look at that.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I do appreciate. Yeah, I do appreciate something's going to be built there, but some consideration would be nice.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else at this point?
We do, Madam Chair. We were able to reach out to Sharon.
Okay. Sharon Hang.
Good morning, everyone. So we are the owner of 108 Alfred Avenue. So I'm Ho Yun Law Oliver, and my wife Sharon Yun Ki is with me here. So we echo what Loretta has mentioned in her objection. And on top of that, we want to respectfully disagree with what Chris mentioned, that the design of this plan is consistent with the first 3 houses in the street, because we are one of the streets. So the frontage of this plan is very narrow against the rest of the houses. And if we look at from Willowdale Park all the way to Dudley Street, majority of the houses in this section is bungalows and retail houses. So these 2 new houses, despite the concern from 98 Alfred Avenues, the character is very distinct from the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. So we would like to have the redo and the design that is aligned to the rest of the houses, and then also the height of the houses that is in the plan is higher than is requested to be higher than the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. So we do not think that is really consistent with the rest of the street. And then we echo all the concerns that 98 and the rest of the Alfred Avenue's objections are. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I have Terry Hyatt on speakerphone. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, Terry, do you want to speak now?
Yes, I do. Thank you, dear. I appreciate your help. So my name is Terry Hyatt. I don't live in the area, but I do visit there often. I go to the park, and there are residents there I'm friends with. My concerns are, first of all, there's been no update provided to the reasons why the City of Toronto Planning Department is dissatisfied with the application. In the original presentation, it said, "This is to advise you that the examination of your zoning application law certificate application has revealed that certain requirements for the city's zoning bylaws have not been satisfied." So I haven't heard if the concerns have been addressed or rectified, and I am requesting that this application not be pursued until all conditions have been satisfied and verified as having been rectified by the City of Toronto Planning Department. My next objection is, according to the plan, It shows the two house plans with a 1.22 meters, 4 feet separation between the buildings. In Ontario, fire safety regulations and building codes ensure that the houses are constructed and maintained to minimize the fire risks. And according to the Ontario Building Code, side yard setbacks in the zoning bylaw require a minimum separation of 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet between the buildings. Therefore, this plan contravenes the Ontario Building Code fire safety regulations. And I am requesting that that this be looked at, as this could set a precedent for future applications by dishonorable landowners and builders, which could lead to unsafe buildings and deadly consequences. So I'm wondering how the builder is going to address that, and if the plans will be adjusted to ensure that the fire code distance of 5.9 feet or 1.8 meters is met.
Thank you. We'll let the applicant address your questions.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Any questions?
Right. Any questions of the panel?
Okay.
No?
I'm gonna hang up now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is that it, or do we have?
Madam Chair, we have one more speaker. It's
Okay.
Rob Borelli, who is also from 98 Alfred. So I will unmute them, and then I think they've used their time, but I'll leave that in your hands.
Right. We already heard from the person here in attendance is from that address, right? So it's only one speaker per. Okay, could you come to the mic, because so that it's recorded?
Sorry, I wasn't going to be able to attend in person, so we registered, and now I
Okay.
am, so.
So I don't think we need to hear from your husband then?
No.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right. Could we have the applicant back, please, to address the concerns that have been raised by the residents?
Hello, Madam Chair. Okay, so, Madam Chair, I've listened very closely to the residents, and, I have spoken with, the Borellis in the past to understand their issues. And I've also read the various objection letters that were submitted, and I took some time to review them, and I kind of grouped some of the concerns. I was hoping I can kind of try to cover most, if not all, of their concerns by grouping them. So the first area is kind of this concern about shadow or the impact on adjacent lands. So to that, I would offer that we have actually prepared a shadow analysis, and that was included in the committee's package. This shadow analysis demonstrates the resultant shadows that would be created by this proposal. The shadow diagram clearly shows that there are no adverse impacts on any of the adjacent parcels. Specifically, with regard to 98 Alfred, their backyard area is free and clear of any shadows after 11 a.m. Additionally, the shadow analysis demonstrated that no properties to the north experience any shadow impacts at all. The shadow does not extend beyond the northern property line in any respect at any time of day. And again, I think this speaks to the merits of the proposal and the application's ability to meet the maximum height requirements. And as a point of clarification, I think one of the residents had pointed that the building is taller than it should be. That is incorrect. The maximum height permission is 10 meters, and we are under that 10-meter height meter limitation. The 3 stories versus the 2 stories is a variance. But again, that is really more of a design choice by the architect to put the garage where it is and kind of mimic what has already been done on the street. The next issue is kind of this conversation around height. I already spoke with the 10 meters, but I want to kind of clarify. So the variance sought for 2 stories to 3 stories. As the basement is considered the ground floor, as I had noted earlier. This is frequently occurring along Alfred Avenue, 108, 110, 111, 112, and 115 all share this very common design choice by various architects. We are not introducing anything new or unfamiliar to Alfred Street. This is a condition that currently already exists. Now, Madam Chair, I want to spend a little bit of time on the platform. So in terms of concerns pertaining to the platforms, the height and the size, I wanted to note that the platform is a deck from the living room to the backyard. It is not a balcony as it may appear to be when you read the zoning notice. The purpose of that zoning clause, which limits the platform size and its height, is to ensure that large balconies are not provided off of upper story bedrooms and upper story living areas. In this instance, due to the basement and garage being considered the first story, and the main level, where the living room and the deck is located, are considered the second story, this clause gets triggered. So, in actuality, this is another deck accessed by a common living area similar to many of the houses in the area. Just to name two examples, 115 and 112 Alfred Avenue have an identical rear deck that is 2 meters above grade as per their approved Committee of Adjustment decisions. The last item, I guess more specific to 98 Alfred, is the conversation around privacy and overlook. And as I had mentioned, we met with the Borellis, and I understand their concern, and we did take back all of their concerns to the owner and the architect. And while we were able to adjust the side yard setback, and we were glad to do so, lowering the building, unfortunately, by 30 centimeters, which would have eliminated that variance entirely about the platform. Then it would have been permitted, and we wouldn't really be even talking about the platform. But unfortunately, we weren't able to lower the overall the overall basement by 30 centimeters to avoid that. So it's considered a variance. So to help mitigate this concern, we offered to increase our side yard setback, as I said, from 1.2 to 1.5. We also discussed providing a screen for the deck on the west side of the screen to prevent this issue of overlook and potential privacy concerns. Also, I wanted to note that the current fence is just basically a chain link fence between the two properties, which doesn't really provide any type of buffer at all. We have agreed, and I had mentioned this to the Borellis in the past, is that the owner is agreed and committed to constructing a proper fence between the two properties to further address this concern. Whether it's a 1.8 meter tight wood privacy fence, really, the owner. I've been advised by the owner that they are willing to work with the Borellis to construct a fence to their satisfaction, which will help. So between a new fence, an upgraded fence, and screening that we can apply to the rear deck, which again is a very common occurrence here, we are trying to mitigate any of those concerns that the Borellis may have. So,
All right.
Madam Chair, that is what I was able to hear.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions, follow-up questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, sorry, through you to the applicant. Some of our staff and members of the public who are listening through WebEx, there appears to be an echo. So to the applicant, do you have more than one device on in your background, or are you only using one device to speak to?
No, and I also hear that echo, which is it's a little odd. But no, I only have one device, just my desktop computer that I'm kind of working from here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we good? Okay, thank you. Mr. Swartz, go ahead. Question for the applicant.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So my questions, first of all, I don't think we've addressed, I don't know to what degree we should, but there was a resident who raised a fire safety issue Do you have anything to say about that? And then I'll get on to another bigger question, but this is for the applicant. Fire safety issue?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Schwartz. So I am not an architect, and I am not intimately familiar with the building code, but I believe that the fire code regulations are entirely being met. And if they're not being met, then they will have to be met. There's no choice. If the architect is in error by showing a 1.2 meter setback on that side, then he will simply have to make that adjustment when he comes to the building permit. But I do not believe that is the case. I believe that the proposal as designed is entirely compliant with the Ontario Building Code and specifically any fire regulations.
Okay, thank you about that. Now I've got maybe a few more questions getting into the heart of this application. So we've got 3 applications, the 2 zoning variance applications and the severance application. But my understanding, when I look at the staff report, so the staff, said, effectively they said they weren't going to change their previous report, and the previous report was a refusal. And they said, even though you've worked with the residents, if I understand what they're saying, and I look at the previous staff report, the previous staff report recommended a refusal, and it was clear on why it was recommending the refusal. It was effectively on the severance. If I understand this correctly, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but the staff, and maybe I could quote from it if I could get the right. Effectively, they're saying that they say the block is not in a transitional area. They say that the policy requires development in established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographic neighborhood. And they're talking about the lot study shows that the majority of the lots have frontages greater than 12 meters. So if I understand this correctly, what they're saying is they do not want this lot severed, or at least, well, that's all they've said. And so, and they were asking for a refusal then. I don't see that there's really been any change to that here. And so I don't understand why, in the face of a negative staff report, which I take this as being, why should the committee approve this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Member Schwartz, for the question. So through you, Madam Chair. So yes, you're correct in your read and interpretation of the staff report. They are relying on kind of official plan policy, OPA 320, which is what it's known, and really zeroing in on the language around prevailing lot size and lot configuration. And in their view, they've deduced that it does not comply in their view. However, as I've said, if you look at the area and you look at both the broader and the immediate context, which needs to be factored in, and that is the language that comes from the official plan, you'll find lots as small as 9 meters up on Elmwood, Kingsdale, and Parkview. And on Alfred itself, we have lots as small as 12 meters. So the question on the official plan is not, can you copy or mimic what is already there? The question about fit and compatibility comes down to exactly that. Would a 9 meter frontage be compatible with what is there right now? Given that we have lot sizes that pretty much range from 9 to 12 to 15 for the ones that are historically existing, our assertion is that that official plan policy is actually maintained, because if you have a range of lot sizes and 12 meters can exist perfectly fine on Alfred, and the neighborhood doesn't suffer any negative consequences, then our assertion is that very similarly, a 9 meter frontage would also continue to maintain that character of the area, which has experienced some change. And our assertion is that a 9-meter frontage will fit in nicely with this character. It will not destabilize the neighborhood in any way, just as the 12-meter frontages did not destabilize anything prior to this. So these areas experience growth. They experience an evolution in their built form and their nature. And we believe that this proposal is very much in keeping with what is happening, not only on Alfred, but what is happening in the broader community as well.
Okay. So, but effectively, the staff have not changed their view of this being incompatible, right? We acknowledge, we both agree that staff have not changed their view, even though you're effectively making arguments that you don't agree with the staff, but they have not changed their view. So let's just talk about one other thing, and I don't want to belabor this too much, but I don't know if you were on this morning for a previous application, but the previous applicant severed a lot, but they brought something that, well, they brought a semi, but they did something different. You basically, you didn't really change a lot of your plan. You changed certain things to satisfy the residents, but you still didn't really, in my view, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't work with planning to try to overcome the objection that they had on prevailing building type and lot size, right? You effectively, you modified your variances, but you didn't change the fundamental nature of your application. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that is correct. The lot size and the lot frontage of splitting something cannot change. It is what it is because of the existing lot area. We did have some follow-up positive conversations with staff, and they did note, as in their updated memo, that they do acknowledge that we have made changes that would improve things, but they decided that they didn't want to change their original recommendation. We had some lengthy conversations with staff. We thought for a moment that there might be a change in staff's position, but they decided against it. So to answer your question, yes, the lot frontage and lot area has not changed since we initially applied, and that is really a result of the geometry of the site.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions, panel? Are we ready to take this into committee? Guess we are. Do we want to comment? I just wanted to bring up a couple of things relative to your questions, Mr. Swartz. The applicant stated that, he said in the broader context there are narrower lots, but I think that staff's review are focusing more on the immediate context, and I don't believe there are 9-meter lots in the immediate context. And there's a big difference between a 9-meter lot and a 12-meter lot in terms of the house, and you can tell the difference. So I think that's one thing. And we have a staff report recommending refusal because they don't believe it meets the tests of the Planning Act under Section 51, which is the subdivision conditions. I think I have concerns as with staff. I'm siding with staff's comments on this application personally, just because I think that it's not appropriate for this area at this time. Should planning in the future do a study on severances in residential areas of 15-meter lot frontages, that's something else, but they haven't done that. And the other difference between this and the first application is the first application did not have requirements for minimum lot frontages or areas. So it didn't have to meet that test, which was easier for that application to be looked on favorably. So I will say that for now, and then if anyone else wants to comment, Ms. Sankar.
Yeah, thank you for that input, Madam Chair. It's really valuable sometimes to hear your perspective coming from the planning background that you have. I do want to say that, you know, I find it commendable that they try to go away and work with the neighbors. And I want to sort of put that value in there that they've tried to do their due diligence wherever possible. The only thing that falls short for me is that, listen, if you knew that there was an issue beforehand already recognized by staff, to me, would you not take that away and really try to do your best and due diligence to bring forth some evidence to this committee to show, listen, here's everything in the neighborhood, here's what's been severed. I mean, you know the 4 tests that we have to go through. And so it is seemingly falling short of that for me, is that, you know, bringing forth that evidence to show me that there is some kind of consistency within the same environment, even if it was not exactly immediate, give me a specific bandwidth of the area for me to hold on to something. And I haven't seen that, so I'm agreeing with you and my colleague, Member Schwartz, as well.
Thank you. Mr. Schwartz.
So I just want to echo what my colleagues have already said. Like, to me, although I appreciate that the applicant deferred, went back and talked to residents, still hasn't satisfied residents, still hasn't satisfied planning staff. So that, to me, even speaks more loudly that there's something wrong with this and that it doesn't meet the 4 tests. Because, and maybe it's just that the kind of thing that the applicant wants to build is just not going to meet the 4 tests in this case. So that's why I was talking about what had happened earlier in the morning where there was a semi. I don't even know if that meets the 4 tests. It's hypothetical. But it's a more fundamental change to this application, maybe something that could be canvassed. There's perhaps other things that could be canvassed. But in my view, based on the staff report and having listened to the presentations, in particular the applicant's presentation on how the application would meet the 4 tests in light of the opposition from planning saying effectively that it does not meet the 4 tests, my inclination is to accept the staff report. I think that that's more in line with the Planning Act, and therefore, based on all that, I'd like to make a motion, and my motion would be to refuse, and that would be to refuse item number 2 in its entirety.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Ms. Sankar, thank you. All in favor of the motion to refuse the application? That is unanimous. Your application has not been approved. Been refused. Sorry? Yes, I think we need a quick break. I will say 5 minutes, but it'll always be 10 minutes, so. I will say 10 minutes, but we're not going to be 15. How about that? Thank you. So it's 11:46 and we stopped at 10:46. I'm trying to keep to my promises here. Okay, we are on item number 3, 92 Powell Road. This is an application for a 2-story detached dwelling. We have variances for east and west side yard setbacks and driveway width. On file, we have a survey, plans, site plan, photos, a community planning report, a transportation services memo, and an urban forestry memo. Do we have our applicant with us or online? Okay. Mr. Sasso?
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Could you please
Thank
state
you.
name and address for the record?
Mr. Jonathan Sasso, 190 Pippin Road in the city of Vaughan.
Thank you. And do you have any changes to make to the application today?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does the committee wish a presentation on this one? Anyone? Ms. Sankar, is that yes, or you just want to make a comment, or you have a question?
Well, sorry, this is item number 3, right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, because the staff report does have something saying that they wanted, variances 1 and 2 refused, and there are no changes being made to the application. So maybe if he can comment on why that is. would
Good
be
idea.
helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I have a presentation that I can take the committee through. It's very brief, but I think it'd be very helpful in understanding.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. It's great. Okay, so we can go to the next slide into the development proposal. So again, the application seeks to facilitate the development of new 2-story single detached dwelling with attached garage and rear basement walkout. The existing dwelling will be demolished. So some important features of this proposal is that the driveway, the existing driveway currently facilitates 6 cars, and it's been reduced to 1 car space. And the width of the driveway, the existing width of the driveway is 6.20 meters, and it's the proposed new driveway is 3.86 meters. Now, the current existing property is built with an existing detached garage that has a 0.23 meter setback from the eastern property line. The proposal seeks to remove the detached garage and establish a building with an integrated garage 1.21 meters from the property line. Next slide, please. So these are generally the variances. As you're aware, planning staff identified variants 1 and 2 of concern. Next slide, please. So staff are the opinion that the requested side yard setbacks introduce a massing that is excessive and creates an impact that does not respect nor reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood. We obviously strongly disagree with staff's assessment of the proposal. For the first reason is that the existing side yard setback is 0.23 meters from the detached garage. The proposal actually seeks to improve upon this existing condition and create additional separation distance from that east side yard. Secondly, in the surrounding neighborhood, a number of applications for minor variance, which sought relief from the side yard setback provision, equal to or less than the proposal, have been approved. So the physical character of the neighborhood is already made up of dwellings with similar setbacks. The dwelling has been designed proportionate to the lot and is consistent with the range of previous approvals for the immediate neighborhood. Now, in terms of planning, massing typically relates to the overall bulk, shape, and size of a building. With respect to the proposal, there are no variances that are being requested for height, coverage, or building length. And these are the features that would directly impact massing. So staff's comments are quite peculiar from this sense. Next slide, please. So we've undertaken an analysis of the immediate surrounding neighborhood, and we've uncovered a number of approvals that have been granted for minor variance within that neighborhood, which seek variances to the side yard setback equal to, or in some cases less than, the proposal. I provided these decisions to the committee for the benefit of their review. It was submitted yesterday. I'm not sure if the committee members had an opportunity to review these, but they're listed below. I think we can, next slide, in terms of the driveway width. Transportation operations are the opinion that this variance is acceptable, so I won't speak too much into it. So I'll just go to my last slide, which is ultimately my planning opinion. So the intent of regulating side yard setbacks is obviously to ensure that dwellings and structures have sufficient spatial separation from side lot lines and abutting buildings, and for the purposes of building maintenance and rear yard access. The proposal for 1.2 meter setbacks on both the east and west side will still allow for sufficient spatial separation from the buildings and the lot lines, and will continue to provide adequate maintenance to and rear yard access. The proposed side yard setback is within the range of what exists by nature of those approvals being granted in the surrounding neighborhood. And also the application is supported by surrounding net residents, including those immediately abutting and adjacent to the proposal at 87, 88, 89, 93, and 95 Powell Road. And those are the residents that would be most impacted by the massing of this development. The proposed side yard setback of 1.2 meters does not increase in the appearance of massing, and as no other variances are required to lot coverage height or building length. And in our opinion, the proposal is consistent with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, as the application meets all 4 tests prescribed in the Planning Act. I think, in my opinion, the proposal would be a welcomed addition to the neighborhood, as demonstrated by the letters of support. And in my opinion, the neighborhood is such that the pattern of side yard setbacks is varied, with a range and diversity of setbacks distances between buildings and structures. I also would point out that the surrounding neighborhood is one that is experiencing regeneration through reinvestment in aging housing stock. This reinvestment has come by way of renovation, building addition, and/or new construction, some of which have required variances to the zoning bylaw. That concludes my remarks for today. I would be pleased to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, you mentioned that you're improving the existing condition side yard setback. When I look at the survey, that doesn't seem to be the case. Looks like you're reducing it. Can you just circle back to that comment and point me in the right direction if I'm seeing things incorrectly?
Through you, Madam Chair, there's an existing detached garage on the property that has a 0.23 meter setback.
You're referring to the concrete block garage at the rear.
No, so sorry. Through you, Madam Chair. When I'm speaking of an existing condition, you would have to look at the survey to see what the current configuration of the buildings on site. I believe you're looking at the site plan for the proposed development.
No, I have the survey in front of me. I see the concrete block garage at the rear, which is
yes,
very close.
Correct.
Very close to lot line.
Correct. And that's 0.23 units.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? So I guess we can take this into committee for discussion and/or a motion. Anyone? Go ahead, Mr. Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In reviewing the application, this is one of the ones where I disagree with the staff. I don't think it's going to be an imposition upon the neighborhood. The setbacks that are being asked for do improve it at the rear upon looking at the survey again, and they do reduce it at the area of the main house. But on balance, I think the proposed variances are supportable and will frankly enhance the neighborhood and provide some new housing stock.
Thank you very much. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, if there's no disagreement, I'll put forward to a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo attached and subject to the conditions of the transportation services memo attached.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Ms. Sankar, thank you. All in favor? That is, I can't count. 5 in favor, all opposed? Mr. Swartz, do we have your vote?
Well, yeah, I guess, okay, I'll vote
Is that in favor?
in favor.
Let's just do it again to be clear. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. That is unanimous. Your application has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
All right, moving on to number 4, 17 Birkendale Crescent. This is a new detached dwelling. We have variances for lot coverage, north side yard setback, and south side yard setback. On file, we have a survey, plans, urban forestry memo, one letter of objection from 15 Birkendale Crescent. We have the applicant with us today in person. Please state your name and address for the record and make sure the microphone's on.
Good morning. My name is Reza Rat. I'm located at the 29 Canyon Creek, Richmond Hill. And if you pay attention to the drawing, the existing house still is more than this in the south side. And also, if you take a look to the setback in the back, again, the existing house is more than this. We apply only for 1 story for second floor. And by zoning, we can have it the 6 feet from the both sides for 1 story, but according to our drawing, it doesn't work with our drawing. And also we have for coverage 2.7% more, but still we are same as the line is the same as the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. And you had no changes. I forgot to
No,
ask
no
you that.
changes.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay. All right, so we will take this into committee for a discussion and motion. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I missed that. I looked at the beginning, I didn't see it. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Sankar, sorry.
That's okay, Madam Chair. I keep blending in with the scenery. I just, looking at this, if no one else has questions, I'm ready for a motion. I just feel that it is simple and meets the 4 tests. I note the letter of objection from the neighbor around the setbacks, but I think that the setbacks are it's reasonable and within the scope of this neighborhood. And so for that, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application subject to forestry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Mr. Bartolo, thank you. All in favor of the motion? That's unanimous. Your application's been approved. All right. Item number 5, 4 Brynhurst Court. One moment. This is an application for a new dwelling. We have variances for floor space index, north side yard setback, and parking space width. On file, we have a survey, plans, an arborist report, transportation services report. And we have our applicant with us as well today, in person. Name and address, please. I don't think your microphone's on.
Yes, sorry, Christopher Loftus. I'm here on behalf of the owners of 4 Brynhurst. My address is 10 St. Hilda's Avenue in Toronto.
Thank you. Panel, do we want a presentation on this one? No, I'm seeing no. So unless there's something you want to point out,
No, not particularly, no.
we will take it into committee for a decision. Panel, Mr. Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a relatively simple application. I understand numerically the FSI is a bit higher. However, it's not really triggering any other variances. And when it comes to the parking spot, transportation services doesn't have an issue with it. If if they can squeeze their car in and they're parking there on a private basis, I have no issues with it. So be it. So I'll put forward a motion to approve this application, subject to the standard conditions of the transportation memo.
Thank you very much. And do I have a seconder? Ms. Sankar? Thank you. All in favor of the application or the motion? That is unanimous. Your application's been approved.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. All right. Item number 6, 150 Hillhurst Boulevard. This is an application for a new 3-story dwelling. We have variances for driveway width, east and west side exterior main wall height, front and rear exterior main wall height, main pedestrian entrance above established grade, building length, floor space index, and area of a rear platform at the 2nd story. Do we have our applicant?
Madam Chair, I believe this is Tay Ruck representing this application.
Thank you.
I am the planner for the owner of the property at 150 Hillhurst Boulevard.
And your name and address, please?
Sure, my name is Tay Rook, and I am at 130 Reichert Crescent.
Thank you very much. Do we want a presentation on this one, a brief one maybe? Okay, so could you provide us with a brief presentation on your application?
Sure.
Madam Chair, it's Nadini just asking a question that maybe they just, in there, it's really just to address the comments made by the, someone who's objecting around the windows on the side and privacy issues, if they can concentrate on that.
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. The comment was actually received from 265, was related to the rear hedges along the rear lot line of the property. My client actually had reached out to them and said, yeah, we will maintain those hedges. We have no problems of not trimming those hedges whatsoever. In addition to that, as a result of the conversation, there was a letter of support from that same address, 265 Courtney Boulevard, which was submitted indicating that they now support the application. With respect to any of the other variances as it relates to main wall heights, FSI, this is a dwelling that's pretty much as a right in terms of building envelope. You'll note that the FSI number is a little bit higher, but that is a result of that doesn't relate to side yard setbacks being encroached on either side or the front or the rear. The overall height is in compliance with the zoning bylaw. The main wall heights, as you can see in the pictures from the adjacent properties to the left and to the right of the subject property, will be consistent with what's being proposed for the subject proposal. And with regards to the comment from transportation about the positive slope of the driveway, there is a positive slope of approximately 2%. So that is not a concern, and we have addressed that. We will address that as part of the site plan resubmission. You'll note in the area context map, there's various examples of building lengths that are beyond the 17-meter mark, in addition to overall exterior main wall heights that are above 8.5 meters in the immediate block and in the surrounding areas. And with respect to the area of the platform, that is related to the ground floor. There's a deck at the rear, and once again, that is consistent with other developments that have occurred in the neighborhood. And from the immediate adjacent neighborhood perspective at 148 and 152, we have received letters in support, and they have no issues with this application. And also, Urban Forestry has standard condition number 1, which we are okay with, and the Planning Department had no objections or concerns with regards to this proposal. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Could you comment on the need for the front and side wall heights, why they need to be so high?
Well, this is through you, Madam Chair, this is a flat roof, and as a result of that, the bylaw requires an 8.5 meter side exterior wall heights. You'll note that there is no variance related to the overall height, but if you go back to the pictures on slide number 6, you'll note that the adjacent dwellings, there's one newly being constructed immediately to the east at 148, which is also a flat roof, in addition to 154, which is a traditional type house. From a massing perspective and the eaves line perspective, we will be consistent with those heights. And from other examples and other dwellings, whether it be flat roofs or pitch roofs in the area, we are also consistent with the massing and height of the dwellings for main wall heights. So this proposal in no way will protrude over adjacent dwellings or houses in the neighborhood.
Okay, and another question about height is the main pedestrian entrance height.
Yes.
That's considerably over what is permitted. And are there other examples in the neighborhood of main pedestrian heights?
Yes, if you look at the pictures once again on slide number 6, to the left of the subject site, you'll see a beige house. That height That step is approximately 2.7 meters in terms of a first floor height. In addition to across the street, there's a flat roof, modern looking house that's also approximately 2.2 meters. And throughout the neighborhood, you find elevated front entrances throughout the neighborhood. And once again, this was to ensure that you maintain a cohesive entrance to the layout of the building. And because reality is that from a massing perspective, the front entrances, although it may be higher than the bylaw requirement, it does not create an overmassing on the site or towards the streetscape. We would submit to you that it's consistent with what's existing in the neighborhood and in no way impacts adjacent properties or the streetscape.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have comments, questions? No? All right. No other questions. We can take this into committee. Who wants to make a comment? Ms. Sankar.
Yeah, not necessarily a comment if, there's no questions or anything. For me, I find that this application feels, thought through. And I also feel that transportation has no concerns. Urban forestry has, provided their condition. And even that one letter of objection, they've agreed on a private agreement around heightening the hedges for privacy reasons, and that will be their private agreement to honor. But I don't feel that this causes any problem, so I'm willing to put forward a motion, but not sure if anybody else has anything else to say.
Just a comment.
One moment, Mr. Swartz, go ahead.
I believe, if I am correct, there are conditions by transportation, correct?
Yes, there's just some general conditions, but they had no objections.
Yeah, no objections, but some conditions, yeah.
I just thought I needed to make that point, because if you're going to bring a motion, I think we have to make it subject to those.
Sure, I'm sure Ms. Sankar is willing to add those conditions.
I mean,
yes, I was going to.
urban forestry has some conditions.
Yeah. All right, let's let Ms. Sankar clarify her motion. Go ahead.
Sure. So through you, Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application, and I will make it subject to urban forestry conditions as well as transportation conditions. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Mr. Kibu? All in favor of the application, or the motion, sorry. Okay, that is unanimous. The application has been approved. All right, we'll move on to.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Moving on to item number 7, 16 Farm Coat Road. This is an application for a 2-story dwelling, and I believe it only has one variance for lot coverage. We have the applicant.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Sorry, can you
This is,
speak up?
Faraz
We
Buyande.
can't hear you.
Sure. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. This is Faraz Buyande from 105 Harrison Garden Boulevard, Unit 515.
Thank you very much. And it's probably a redundant question, but do you have any changes to make to the application today?
No.
Okay.
No changes.
And panel, does anyone want a presentation here? No, I don't think we need a presentation unless there's something you want to point out to the committee. We'll just take it into committee for consideration.
I don't have anything for adding a comment for this.
Okay, thank you. Let's take this into committee. Somebody want to, Mr. Bartolo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It's a fairly straightforward application. The increase in lot coverage is not triggering any other variances. I don't see any issues supporting this. I'll put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo and subject to the Metrolinx conditions noted in their memo attached.
I think is the Metrolinx just advisory?
No, there's conditions.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is a environmental easement. I don't think.
You know what? I'm going to retract that.
Okay.
The Metrolinx deal with it.
We'll scratch the
Offline
Metrolinx.
separate. We'll
Yeah.
scratch that, and we'll just go straight to only the urban forestry condition.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Mr. Kipu. All right, all in favor of the motion? That is unanimous. The application has been approved. All right, number 8, 151 Maxome Avenue. This is wait a minute, sorry. A proposal to construct a gazebo in the rear yard. We have variances for lot coverage, side yard setback for an ancillary building. On file, we have a survey, plans, and an arborist report. Do we have our applicant here in person? Great. Come on forward to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello. So my name is Arian. I'm the applicant's agent.
Address?
151 Maxim Avenue.
Sorry, your address, not the...
Oh, mine, 170 Connaught Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And do you have any changes to make to the application today?
No, the application is same
Okay.
as mentioned. It's only about the minor about the lot coverage that we have, and also the setback. The setbacks on all other sides are meeting the meeting the requirements, just only on the one side of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone want a presentation or have any questions for the applicant? No? I don't think we need a presentation, and there don't appear to be any questions, so we'll take this into committee. Thank you. All right. Mr. Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a very minor application. The additional about 13 meters of coverage I'm not too concerned about. And while the setback is is less than the requirement, this is a gazebo, open air structure. I don't see any imposition on the neighborhood. It's a beautification item, frankly. So I'm going to go ahead and put forward a motion to approve this application without condition.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Ms. Sankar, thank you very much. All in favor of approval of the motion? That is unanimous. The application has been approved. Thank you. All right. Item number 9, 305 Deloraine Avenue. This is an application to construct a second-story addition to an existing dwelling. We have variances for east side yard setback, west side yard setback, and floor space index. On file, we have a previous decision for a rear deck in 2018, a survey, and plans. Our applicant is online, I guess?
Yes, Andrew Trotter, 81 St. Clarence Avenue, Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. Trotter. And do you have any changes to make to the application today?
No changes.
Great, thank you. Panel, do we want a presentation on this one? Oh, we have a neighbor on this one. Yes, I guess we do need a presentation. Sorry about that. All right, if you could provide us a brief presentation, please.
Well, this is a young family that is growing, looking to add more space to the house. They've put basically a second floor on top of the existing walls of the existing house. So the setbacks are existing. There's not much they can do about that. And the FSI has gone to 0.84, which is pretty minor, I would say. They're basically applying to do, what many of the neighbors do in that neighborhood. I believe this meets the 4 tests, and I think it's a minor variance.
Thank you very much. Anyone have a question for the applicant? No? All right, let's move on to the neighbor, if they are here.
Through you, Madam Chair, we have Jennifer on speakerphone.
Great, thank
Jennifer,
you.
You can start.
Hi, thank you very much. So I'm the owner at 307 De Lorraine, directly next door to 305. We currently have tenants living there, and mostly I just joined because I just want to get more information about the project. Our house is very close to 305, and just knowing what construction can be like, I just mostly want to understand, how construction debris will be handled. There's an access point. The side door to the 307 house is directly like 2 or 3 feet from the construction site. So basically just wanting to understand how construction debris will be just sort of maintained and sort of kept to the construction property. Noise, I believe our tenants work from home. So just from a noise perspective and demolition, which is usually the most disruptive, how some of those aspects of the construction problem will be handled.
All right, thank you. We'll have the applicant, anyone have any questions?
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. I'm going to hang up now.
Okay, thank you.
No, okay. Let's have the applicant address those concerns that are raised by the neighbor.
Oh, okay. Well, the only demolition will be the roof of the existing bungalow. That'll happen quite quickly. The driveway and I would say construction loading area would be to the south of the building, which is quite far from I understand your east wall is close there. And once the exterior wall on the west side is raised, platform's built and the wall is raised, there really shouldn't be any noise or problem on your side of the house. There's no windows going in on that side of the house. And the homeowner is the contractor. He is a builder. And so I'm pretty sure he's going to want to keep that site clean and keep his neighbors, feeling good about the project. I don't really know what else to add to that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of the applicant? No? All right, I think we can take this into committee for a decision. Ms. Sankar?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, if there's no other discussion, I think this application is quite, simple and easy for me to say I'm in agreement with it. I do believe that whatever agreement that they do make up privately with the neighbor will be honored privately as well, and I'm hoping that they would honor that. So with that, if there's no other questions, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application as is. Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder? Mr. Bartolo? All in favor of the motion? That is unanimous. The application has been approved. All right, item 10, closing out our morning agenda. 53 Snowden Avenue. This is an application for a new 3-story dwelling. We have variances for west side yard setback to the front porch, west side yard setback to the rear deck, west side yard setback to the front canopy and the rear canopy, height and projection of the rear deck, height of the front exterior main wall, floor space index, west side yard setback, building length, and building depth. On file, we have a survey, plans, revised plans, a site plan, arborist report, a presentation, a community planning report, a transportation services email, one letter of support, and several letters of objection. I think that is it for my summary. All right. Do we have our applicant with us? Take it.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I
Thank
hope I'm coming through okay.
Yes, you're fine. Just name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last name's Bronskill, Bronskill. First initial D is for David. and my business address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, and I'm here attending as agent for the applicant.
Thank you very much. And do you have any, sorry? All right, it appears we have another conflict with Mr. Bartolo. Sorry. He just realized that Mr. Brownskill he's working with Mr. Brownskill on another.
Yes.
So Mr. Bartolo will excuse himself before evidence is presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So he's acquainted with the solicitor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Brownskill, do you have any changes to make to the application today?
No, there are no changes at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have residents in attendance for this, so are you going to make the presentation on behalf of the applicant or the owner?
I am, Madam Chair. Yes,
All right.
please. And Madam Chair, just for staff's benefit, the two documents that I intend to look at with you on the screen is one is the presentation material package, which I believe is 6 pages. And then, Madam Chair, there's also the architectural plans, which I may refer to just to show you the front and rear elevations, but I may be able to do that just in that 6-page package instead. And that's to address the front wall, rear wall height variance when I go through the presentation.
Okay.
So thank you, staff, for pulling that up. If I could ask you just quickly, I'm going to start just with the numbers, Madam Chair, which is page 4
Sorry.
in the presentation. And
Could you just hold on one
Yes.
second? We have a question from a panel member. Mr. Kibben?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I would like you, while doing the application, to try address the staff report recommending refusal, please.
yes, I will do that as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And part of this is starting to address the staff report as well, because they've indicated a concern with the front main wall height, the increased FSI, and the reduced side yard setback. I wanted just to start here on the density map with the numbers. This to me is just a barometer for the committee when looking at what's being proposed. You can see it's 86.43%. We've gone to a geographic neighborhood, and I'm going to keep myself east of Yonge Street. And you can see that there is a range of density being proposed just numerically or quantitatively. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. And I just start with you there to show that the FSI as a number is within the range of approvals that are in the area. I think, and if I could ask staff to just go back up to page 2, which is the site plan. And again, in addressing just the staff concern, and I think some residents may have a concern with the number as well. You can see here how the proposed 3-story dwelling is laid out. While there is the front rear wall, main wall height variance, there's no overall height variance, and that allows a 3-story building to sit on the lot. You can see in green the existing structure to be demolished. You can see in red the outline of what would be otherwise permitted by the zoning bylaw. And then you can see how the 3-story dwelling itself actually fits within that red box with the exception of the west side yard setback. That west side yard setback is actually slightly increased from what exists on the site today. And so in addressing that staff comment, I just would suggest to the committee that we're actually providing a slightly greater west side yard setback. And you can see that the east side yard setback actually meets the zoning bylaw. So I actually think this is an improvement over the existing situation in terms of the staff report. The FSI is then, frankly, the result of deploying that 3 stories within that site plan. And you can see that the front is in good keeping with its neighbors at 55 and 51, Madam Chair. You can see that the rear wall of the 3-story dwelling is in keeping with the rear of the adjacent at 51. I acknowledge there is then the 1-story portion that extends beyond that red line, and that's what triggers the length and depth variances for the committee. And if I could just quickly finish that off with staff going to page 3, we've included on page 3, just so the committee can look, The ground floor to the back of the first story, excluding the excavated portion under the outdoor covered room there, is actually 15.95. The second and third floors are then 13.83 meters. There is an overall building length of 19.7, but it's to include the excavated portion under that outdoor terrace. So it's actually not an exceptionally long house and is in keeping with its neighbor. Just finishing off the staff concerns, and this deals with the front main wall height. And if I could ask staff then just to go through to page 5 of the presentation. This is actually a bit of an interesting or technical variance, if I can put it this way. It's triggered, in fact, by the rear dormer. This is the front elevation. So you can see permitted roof height at 11. You can see there, see where it says sloped roof, and just to the left of that on the front elevation, that's the front dormer, which is actually below the requested variance or below the permitted main wall height. And this is why I suggest that I may pull up the rear elevation at some point if the committee needs it. It's the fact that there's a dormer on the rear at 11 meters that triggers the variance for the main wall, the front and main wall height. And I would suggest to the committee that if you see fit to approve this, I would include a condition that require construction substantially in accordance with the site plan and the front and rear elevations to ensure that the dormer that we're showing here on the front elevation doesn't become any taller than what we're showing to you here. I hope that makes sense for the committee. It's only 10.46 there on the front, whereas it's 11 meters at the back. I should also flag for the committee, there's a requested condition from transportation that we are in support of. It's in the email that they had sent. It's a technical condition that just relates to parking, and they've asked that a condition be included that a site plan be submitted to Transportation Services to confirm the parking pad meets the requirements set out in Chapter 918 of the Toronto Municipal Code. We've indicated to Transportation Services that that's an appropriate condition that we could implement with them should the committee again see fit to allow these requested variances. So, Madam Chair, that's a bit of an explanation of everything. I understand that there may be concerns about the number of that FSI, but I would just suggest to the committee it's an FSI that frankly fits within an envelope contemplated by the zoning bylaw. This is not a house with excessive length or depth. It's been sensitively designed to line up with its neighbors. That west side yard setback's actually been increased, and we think it would be an attractive addition to the neighborhood. And if you'd like an idea of the style of what's being proposed, page 6 of the presentation shows that front rendering, shows that front dormer, and shows how we actually think this is a house that will be complementary within the neighborhood. So thank you, Madam Chair. That's an overview. I'm happy to answer any questions, although I recognize there are other speakers, and perhaps maybe I can address those comments and any questions the committee might have when I come back.
Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Swartz?
Well, maybe I just want to jump ahead to what some of the residents have already raised in their letters and probably will raise in their submissions. But I'm not sure I understand. Like they've provided a density profile showing that the density here is in excess of the average, and you've provided something that's red lines the neighborhood and shows that your density is right. How are we supposed to decide? Like you've got a staff report, a negative staff report. You've got residents that provided data, not just opinions, and then you've got your data. Why should we buy your data and not what the city says?
So two answers to that is the data is the same. So we're providing FSIs that have been approved in the area by the Committee of Adjustment to give you a sense of the range of FSIs that are approved within that geographic neighborhood. So that's data taken from research requests that we submit to the Committee of Adjustment. and we get that data back. And so you can rely on that data. It is what it is. And it does show a range of FSIs being approved in that geographic neighborhood, 0.6s and up to as high as 1.02, in fact, 1.04. And I don't rely, through you, Madam Chair, I don't rely on those numbers to indicate that because they got it, we should get it. I'm giving you those numbers so that you can see the range of quantitative FSIs approved within the neighborhood. I will say, through you, Madam Chair, an average is not the right approach to be taking with FSIs. And there are TLAB and OLT decisions that indicate it's not an average. It's a range, and it's looking at what that density is within the neighborhood. And this is the numbers just give you one idea. And so, for example, if the number was out of whack with that range, I think it would give you a clue that it is an overdevelopment of the site. And that's what the intent of the bylaw is. It's ensuring that it's both compatible with its neighbors and the street, and also that it's not an overdevelopment of the site. And so an excessive FSI beyond what's being approved would give you a clue that that might be happening on the site. And I don't think the numbers support that. The second answer, through you, Madam Chair, is I then go back to the qualitative assessment, which is the site plan. That is, how is that number then being deployed on the site? And I think that's an important part of the analysis for you. That is the density respecting and reinforcing the existing physical character of the neighborhood, not just the numbers? And when I look at that site plan and I see how the front walls and rear walls not only are in line with 51 to the west, but in fact are largely in keeping with the overall permitted zoning envelope, I don't think you've got, therefore, a concern about compatibility. And policy 4.1.8 in the OP specifically addresses this.
Can I cut you off for a sec? Sorry, I don't want to give you extra time to make. I really sort of want to key in on my question, which is, let's talk about the neighbors for a second, because they're going to make their presentation, but I don't want to. They have a density profile. So I said the data of the city. Maybe it's not the data of the city; it's the opinion of the city, but it's the data of the residents. The data of the residents, like I'm just looking at one of the letters that some of them have repeated it. If you jump ahead, there's a letter from Teddington Park Residents Association, and on the second page of their letter, they have a density profile. Do you disagree with that data that they provided? Is that consistent with the data that you provide?
The data is consistent, but I disagree with the approach.
Okay, so that's fine.
It's not. You will not find the word. Well, sorry, Madam Chair, Mr. Schwartz, you will not find the word average in the official plan.
Okay, that's fine. So you just don't like the idea of the word average, but what they've shown, when they've drawn the line of requested and they've shown a density profile, you don't disagree with that. You just disagree with the way they've presented it, but you don't disagree with the, if we look at the top line requested and we look at all the profile that they provided, where they're showing that the requested is, you only disagree with them saying that average should be important. But if you just took that out and you left everything else in, you wouldn't have a problem with it. It's not like you don't even disagree with the average, you just think it's not relevant. Is that correct?
And it's not just me that doesn't think average is relevant.
but
It's the official plan, it's TLAB and the OLT, sir.
Yeah, but, okay, that's.
I'm sorry, sir. I don't know why I'm irritating you.
You are sort of, but I don't want to ask any more questions.
All right. Anyone else?
Well, I apologize to you, Madam Chair. I'm doing my best to answer the question and get a fair hearing.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm
I think
trying to give you a fair hearing by asking you questions. So.
perhaps we'll wait and let the residents speak their part, and then other information will come forward, and you'll have an ability to ask Mr. Brownskill a follow-up question later on. Is that okay?
I might want to ask the resident a question, and I wanted to give him a chance in advance. That's what I'm asking.
You have to talk into the microphone.
I wanted to give them a chance in advance rather than waiting. This way I can question the residents if they bring up these issues. So I'm trying to give them more fairness than he otherwise might get by giving them these questions. Not trying
Okay.
to give them a chance to get extra shots in at this time. I want to head off the residents at the pass by asking questions so that I can ask questions of the residents if I need to understand better.
I
difference
understand,
between-
but I think we'll just let the process follow the normal.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions.
Okay,
I've got what
I
you
do.
did. You do, okay.
I have questions for Mr. Bronskill, but does anyone else have any questions? No? I have two questions. So one related to the FSI. Is it not, in this case, because it's a three-story house, your FSI is increased relative to a two-story house? That's one of the reasons for the increased FSI? Because there's additional
Madam
floor
Chair, I
space?
think that is, I do agree with that, Madam Chair, and it's an interesting proposition that if you took the elevation or the massing we've proposed, that box, and just had a two-story dwelling that had a decreased FSI, the physical character and the compatibility would actually be the same.
Yes, that's what I was
And there's no
getting at.
prohibition on a three-story dwelling.
No. Okay, so that was my first question. My second question is, could staff pull up the front elevation drawing in the plans? I have to find it now. I had it on my screen, but I moved on. It's, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's fine. I had it on my enlarged screen so I could read it, but now I wrote down the numbers. Question about the front main wall, the front, rear, and side main wall heights. The floor heights, the ceiling heights of the ground floor and the second floor appear to be 10 feet each, and then 9 feet for the third floor, if I'm reading the plan correctly. Is that contributing to those height variances for the side and front, rear main walls?
Madam Chair, you are correct. Those are the ceiling heights. It's actually, just so it don't mislead you, it's actually 10'6" on the first there, then 10 on the second, and 9 on the third. I didn't want to
sorry.
mislead you by saying it's 10 on the first.
That's okay. I was
and-
having trouble reading it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it does, it leads to a building that is still within the overall maximum height. The main wall variance ends up being triggered by the dormers and the dormer width. And those are enabling full use of the third floor. So if we narrowed up the dormer, what you would ultimately, if you narrowed up that rear dormer, what you would actually have is the same FSI, but space on that third floor that frankly isn't particularly attractive or usable. So the floor to ceilings would stay the same. It's just a portion of that third floor at the rear would have a different clear ceiling height at the southern portion of the dwelling. If that makes sense, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And was any discussion made with planning staff to possibly reduce? I mean, I've seen in other cases where they've persuaded the applicant to reduce the side main wall height, for instance, to a number that's more in keeping with what's in the neighborhood, as they seem to have a concern with that. Was there
Yeah,
discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, Madam Chair, and there were some discussions with planning staff about a solution. I will also say, without revealing the contents of those discussions, my client did have some, frankly, really good faith, and I thank the Residents Association discussions. There was ultimately no solution found, but there were some ideas bandied about. I won't go into the contents. It's just there wasn't a resolution ultimately reached with the TPRA, and we obviously are appreciative of them reaching out and the efforts that went into that.
Okay, thank you. I won't belabor it anymore. We'll move on to the residents. Do we have any in the audience today? Great. I guess if it's the last item before lunch break, that makes sense that you're here for this item. If you could please come forward and state your name and address first. don't think so.
Testing, is this on?
Now it is. Thank you.
Hi, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name's Scott Stevens. I reside at 46 Golfdale Road. I'm here representing the Teddington Park Residents Association. And in addition, I think there are three individuals that wrote letters of objection and registered to speak that I'm speaking on behalf of as well. Alan Manzer, Christy Merle, and Nina Diamond. So the evidence for the degree of opposition to this file, there's considerable opposition to this file, are 19 letters of objection, 1 letter of objection from the TPRA, and a staff report that refused the application. The greatest concern of the TPRA and of most of the letters of objection is the FSI. We think the building is just too large for this lot and too large for the immediate planning area. If you will turn to the first graphic of my letter, it's the one that has the FSI, all the FSIs. I'll explain this to you. This is all of the residents on all of Snowden. So the immediate planning area is the first 2 blocks east of Yonge. The entire planning area, if you're talking about Snowden, are all 4 blocks of Snowden. This shows all the FSIs on all of Snowden. And you'll see that a 0.86 is a large FSI outlier, and we just don't think it fits within the context of the other buildings on the street. So a little bit about the FSI. The FSI that's been asked for is 0.86. The largest 10 FSIs in the immediate planning area are a 0.8. There are 2 in the 0.7s, and 7 range between 6.5 and 6.9. The applicant's data uses a large area to the south of Snowden, and that zoning is an RD zone, an R zone, and an R zone allows FSIs of up to 0.6. We are in an RD zone, and the maximum FSI allowed there is 0.35. So we feel that a lot of the data that the applicant is showing is not as relevant to the immediate planning area. We did meet with the applicant and tried to negotiate a reduction in the FSI and the main front wall, and we're not able to do that. And planning met with the applicant and tried to come to a resolution, was not able to do that. Our second biggest concern is the front main wall being 11 meters, where 8.5 is allowed. We attempted to negotiate a reduction in the width of the dormer, and were not able to do that. We also attempted to negotiate a reduction in the area of the back dormer, which causes a high main wall, and we're not able to do that. There is a large house to the west that might help this fit in, but that house was the subject of a C of A application years ago, was refused by the C of A. It went to the OMB and was approved. That house is about the same size as this one, a little smaller, but it's not, it's out of keeping with the character of the street as well. And the length and depth variances are considerable. The reason for the large length and depth is a basement gym that protrudes about 5 feet above grade and has a glass top on it. So all of the length and depth is not going to result in the whole building extending out beyond the back of many others. I've got a graphic here that shows how it's protruding. But it will be a footprint, it will be a concrete basement, it will be 5 feet above grade, and it will present the opportunity to build on it in the future. Finally, the data that we have is from a number of years ago. I subsequently got new data from planning when I talked to them, and there are 6 applications on the first 2 blocks of Young Street that we would add to that, and the FSIs are 0.71, 0.8, 0.61, and 0.69. So even the more recent applications have much smaller FSIs than 0.86. Thank you for my.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Mr. Schwartz.
So I do. And first of all, I wanted to thank you for providing data for us. That's much appreciated. Often residents come here and express just opinions. You've given opinion plus data, very helpful to me as a member, so thank you for that. I'd already asked the applicant the question about the data because I could see that you'd gone to the trouble to provide it, and it didn't seem to be consistent with what he was saying, and I asked him, and he said, well, the data is the same data, but their view of the data is different. But I take it from what you're saying is the data is not the same data. They've cherry-picked data from other parts, other areas that is really not as relevant to this area as your data is. Is that correct?
Yes, I think the fact that all of the neighborhood that they show on their map and they pick their RFIs from is in a different zone that allows a 0.6 FSI, and the R zoning that we have allows only for a 3.5. That's why you've got lower density in the Teddington Park Residents Association area, which is all the same zone. The area to the south, Glen Forest in south, is a different zone and it's more dense. And I don't think it's appropriate to take FSI from that in this case.
Okay, so I understand. So basically what you're saying is, if I'm correct, and I'm just assuming this, did the city in effect take a look at the data that you provided and make their recommendation through their staff report based on, and excuse me if I don't get the wording as right as you might, like the difference in the data is coming, one is coming from the neighborhood further north, which is what you're providing the data, and one is also incorporating data from further south. Now, why shouldn't we do that? Well, there's 2 questions. One, is a city looking, is a city, because they're not here for me to ask a question, in your view, is the city looking at data that's the same as the data that you were looking at?
Well, I can't speak for what the city looked at, but given that they are registered planners, and Terry Mills, who we use as a registered planner, our understanding and Terry's is that you should use first and foremost the immediate context, and then you should use a broader context, which would be all of Snowden. Lastly, you would use a geographical context, which would be the neighborhood to the south. You could use the neighborhood to the north if you do a broad enough circle. Okay. But you'd have to ask planning. I rely on planning before I would rely on the TPRA or an applicant, quite honestly.
Right. And the difference between the south and the north, what is that? Not in terms of numbers, but what is that in terms of definition? Like you're saying, one is Teddington Park, one is Glen Forest. What's the difference?
It's Bedford Park, and
Bedford.
It runs from Lawrence up to Glen Forest, and then we run from Snowden up to Glen Echo.
Oh, okay.
I lived in Bedford Park for years. I lived on Roslyn. The lots tend to be 25 feet lots by 125 feet. And when you get rebuilds there and you get 2.5-story, long houses, the densities can get quite high. One of the reasons we moved up to Gulfdale.
Okay. I think that's it for me. Thanks, Matt.
Anyone else have a question? I have one question. Sir, when you mentioned the new builds, the recent new builds and the FSIs for those, were those for 2-story or 3-story dwellings? Do you know?
I don't know. I have the addresses.
Okay. I just thought maybe you would know because as you might have heard us discuss when we were asking the applicant questions, part of the reason for the increased FSI, I believe, is because there's a 3rd floor, which adds to the floor area. So I was just curious whether your new builds reflected that or not. Maybe the next speaker can mention it. Thank you very much. All right, next speaker, please. If we could start with your name and address and just make sure the microphone's on. Yep, thank you.
Sorry, I think this is going to be more of an opinion piece by the neighbors, I'm sorry to say, rather than real, measurements. But I do agree that.
Sorry, your name and address first.
Oh, sorry. My name is Ann Flanagan, and I live at 39 Snowden, which is 6 houses west of 53.
Thank you.
So I do think it's a bit disingenuous of the builder to talk about how the house is the same size as 51 Snowden. 51 Snowden, which is right beside it, is the house that we all use to say, please, dear God, don't build a house like this one. It's what I used when the house went up beside us at 41. It's a huge, long, stucco blank wall that sticks far out from the other homes. And he says it makes the neighborhood nice and everything, and I disagree. And the second thing is, I also think it's disingenuous to say that a big square block, which is your third floor, equals, a slanted roof in terms of light and how it looks and things, which are the other houses on the street. They are not 3 stories, and they are not 3 stories with a balcony that overlooks all of the backyards. So anyway, I just wanted to say that this is what I've talked to a lot of my neighbors, and I'm just saying what their opinions are. And we think that this proposal is the largest FSI, and I know there's lots of discussion back and forth about, what does that mean? This is a 25 by 125 foot lot. Anyway, so it's the highest 3-story front wall height, the longest house yet when you include this permanent deck that sits above the gym that Scott was talking about. So, and it has got a roof. That's where the glass roof is. It's got it, even though it's open, it's got a glass roof above it, and so that sits 5 foot above. And then, so that's where that's where their deck is. So how big of a fence do you have to build so that you don't see everything above their feet? Say if you had a 6-foot deck, you'd have to build a 10-foot deck. You have to be in. It's like living in a tunnel, isn't it? If you have a 10-foot fence so that you have some privacy from what goes on, which will be their deck that they use all the time. So anyway, so this is an alarming precedent, I think, for the neighborhood. And I think that's what most of us want to talk about. Yes, 51 Snowden was built. I don't think it should have been, and we're not really sure how it got through. But we don't want a bunch of homes like that one if we have our say. So, and if you let, this house be built, like he says, I'm going to build it like 51, then the next builder's going to say, well, we're using those variances, but we just want to tweak them a little bit further. And, it just keeps going on and on. So they just keep getting bigger and bigger, and they impact our privacies in the backyard. And that's the beauty of living in this neighborhood. We have these nice backyards. Everyone enjoys their backyard. And, that's part of what makes, this area the area that we want. Okay, I've got 2 minutes left. Anyway, so the problem with these big houses is it destroys the privacy. It also ruins the vista and the light for the houses and the backyards of all the surrounding neighbors. And like I said, at least when the house was built beside ours, I got to say, please build a brick wall. It's so much more interesting than looking at a painted stucco, huge, no windows, nothing, just this big blank wall. So it's just not pleasant to look at. And I think it's the current homeowners, who've made North Toronto this desirable neighborhood that everyone wants to come to for decades. We've lived there, and we shouldn't have to sacrifice the enjoyment of our properties because this new homeowner wants a much larger home on this. So I do believe that if a house this large is so important to the owners because they haven't backed down on any of the variances at all in discussion, then they need to buy a larger lot that a big home like this fits on, and not this small 25-foot by 125-foot long lot. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? 1 second.
Just a comment.
Mr. Swartz.
I just want to be clear to our home viewers, because there could be some home viewers, that my comments and complimenting your fellow resident, the ratepayers, about data, it's much appreciated, but that doesn't mean that, you know, anybody can come and appear at the Committee of Adjustment. It's an open forum for all residents, so you don't have to have data just because your friend has data. So I just want to make that clear. You don't have to feel embarrassed about not having a chart.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I knew Scott was doing that anyway, so I wanted to do the opinion piece anyways. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for in attendance? Okay. Do we have anyone virtually? I think we do. They're not? Okay. Alfie Beauchamp? Yes. Apparently they're not online. They'll try calling. So we'll just pause for 1 second.
She's in Montreal, but going to come in remotely, but maybe she doesn't. She sent an email at 10:53 that she won't be able to.
Oh, okay. So she won't be able to participate. Okay, thank you. All right. They said she sent an email saying she wouldn't be able to. All right, we're going to get them on speakerphone.
Okay, go ahead. Just introduce your name and address first.
Yes, Alfie Beauchamp, address 44 Snowden. Here's just my comment for this 53 Snowden. I do believe there's an excess here in the variances requested. And I think there's no mean to have, and that probably has been said before, but I just want to stress the point and the importance of there's a box allowed for single family, and I think 10 variances is way, way too much for any type of house, especially on our street. If we let that happen, there's no ending. It's like this one will have 10 variances, the other one 12, the other one 14, or it's going to go bigger and bigger and bigger. I understand there's a few big house in the street. It doesn't mean that we have to be bigger or even the same. There's a box allowed. Let's keep to that box. For me, for my opinion, there's no reason why it should be bigger than the box. There's ways to do single family with the dimensions requested, and I think everybody should follow that rule, because otherwise it's just there's no ending. There's no ending. So I'm very, very adamant on that. I'm very strong into that point. No variances allowed. And I think they were asking for an enormous FSI. The average of the street is 0.5. And there's no mean, and I think they were asking for 0.78, something like that, or I'm not too sure. But it's just too big. It just to finalize, to finish on that, it just adds up to the lack of nature. We have to remove nature. We have to destroy the canopy, which is very important. We have to. It will impact also the soil. It will impact stormwater. It will impact. It will impact many things, but just. There's rules into the dimensions, and let's stick to those rules.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the speaker? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm going to hang up.
So that concludes our speakers, correct? All right. So we'll give it back to the agent to address the comments that have been raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So I did want to, I think, just address four things. First, there was a suggestion that I was pointing to 51 Snowden and saying because they got what they had approved, that should also apply to 53. And I just want to be clear to the committee, that is not my suggestion to you. My suggestion to you is it is the adjacent property to the west. I acknowledge 55 to the east is a shorter property. But when you look at what was approved at 51 and what's built and existing, and you compare it to the red line box of the existing zoning envelope, they actually line up very well. And our client's property, again, then lines up well with them in terms of compatibility. And that is one of the tests, 4.1.8, as well as a physical character being respectful of what exists in the neighborhood. So that's why I'm referring to 51, is because it's immediately adjacent, and we need to make sure that the properties that are immediately adjacent also have compatibility. Secondly, there was a reference to the below grade, and I would just say to the committee, there is a grade change on the property. The terrace is 4 feet above grade by the time you get to the rear, and you're able to see that on the rear elevation. It is open, and if the length and depth variances that we have suggested are appropriate, were ultimately not granted, I just want to remind the committee that would simply mean not excavating under the deck beyond the red line, which is the permitted setback outline. And just to remind you, the ground floor of the dwelling is 15.95 meters. The second and third floor are 13.83. So the deck, that outdoor room could be there because it's not FSI, and the length and depth don't actually apply to it unless there's excavation underneath it, i.e. foundations. So I just wanted to flag that for the committee. In terms of the data, I do want to remind the committee, because I think it's important. The data, after I heard to Mr. Stevens, that has been provided by Mr. Mills is for the 4 blocks of Snowden Avenue. That 4 blocks is not a test under the City of Toronto official plan. The test under the City of Toronto official plan, and I want to read it for you, is that the physical character of the geographic neighborhood includes both the physical characteristics of the entire geographic area in proximity to the proposed development, open round brackets, the broader context. So I have to show you the data that's on the screen because the official plan requires me to give you that broader context. It then goes on and says, and the physical characteristics of the properties that face the same street as the proposed development in the same block and the block opposite, open round brackets, the immediate context. In that instance, according to the official plan, the only portion of Snowden that's the immediate context is just from Yonge Street, and it's just the 1 block east of Yonge Street. And so the immediate context doesn't go further east, but further east does form part of the geographic broader context, which the official plan also requires you to look at. So if you confine your review to the 4 blocks of Snowden, you are not, in fact, following either direction of the official plan, which directs you to look at that 1 immediate block and then directs you to look at the broader context. And that's the data that we've provided. And that's why I say the data is the data. That's what's on the screen, and it gives you the range of FSIs in that geographic neighborhood, and it gives you the range of FSIs on the immediate context, the 1 block of Snowden. And the official plan then requires you to look at both of those when assessing the existing physical character of the neighborhood. And that's why we've provided that number to you, and that's why we've provided that range. Fourth and final thing, Madam Chair, just related to the dormer again, because there was a suggestion from Mr. Stevens that it's the front that is unacceptable. The front doesn't trigger a variance because of the width of the dormer at the front. It's 10.46, but if it was just that dormer, that's not triggering the main wall height. It's the width of the dormer at the rear that is triggering the main wall height variance. And I've already talked about why I think it's appropriate and doesn't impact anybody in terms of where it's located. But from a streetscape perspective, what you're seeing on the screen is not actually what's triggering the variance before you. And otherwise, Madam Chair, I'd be repeating myself. So I just wanted to address those comments.
Thank you. Do we have any follow-up questions? Mr. Swartz?
I have follow-up questions. And again, from the perspective of the applicant, I'm just asking these questions to try to understand, because I've got a negative staff report here. And let me quote from the staff report to give you a chance to address it. And please try to keep, please try to keep your answer brief, but I'm going to give you a chance here. It says in the staff report, I'll just read it, and I'm sure you have, the applicant is proposing FSI. This is the bottom of the first paragraph of the comments. And it says, staff are of the opinion that the proposed main wall height and the FSI are not in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw or the official plan and do not maintain consistency with the neighborhood character, right? So that's their view, and you're saying, no, they're wrong. Am I correct? You're just saying you disagree with that comment.
I am saying I disagree with that comment,
Okay.
and for two reasons. One, if you look at the FSI analysis, they say it's more than twice the permitted zoning. And then they indicate what the intent is to ensure that dwellings within a neighborhood are relatively consistent in scale and density. And staff have given you no analysis as to that scale and density. And we have given you those numbers.
Okay.
So I can't go behind.
I want to ask you the next
I'm
question.
sorry, Madam Chair. I'm trying to answer Mr. Schwartz's question. And I understand that
Okay, but
I understand that he may not want to hear me and is making hand gestures, Madam Chair, in irritation at me, but I'm trying to do my best.
I'm not trying to give you extra time to make your original presentation. I'm trying to get you to answer the question, which I think you did, but if you want to keep going in fairness to you, go ahead.
I think we should let Mr. Brownskill clarify his answer to the question, but please keep it brief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Swartz, could you point to me in the staff report where staff have actually analyzed the FSI in the neighborhood?
Well, you're asking me a question. It's really for you to answer the question. I read the staff report.
Well,
it's negative. So, like, I'm giving you a chance to
And I'm-
refute their report.
I am, and I tried to answer it by telling you that they don't have an analysis of the FSI. They just say it's double, and that's not the analysis of the official plan. So if there's an analysis in this staff report that I don't see and that I can't point to you, I would welcome reviewing it with you.
Okay, but we've heard from the resident. The residents provided data, and that was maybe, well, it was certainly contrary to what you provide. But let's forget about that, and let's talk about something else they say in the staff report, and that's in their second last paragraph, where they talk about policy 4.1.5, and they talk about prevailing and the frequency occurring form in geographic neighborhood, and it says in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. That's the last part of that paragraph, right? So are you saying you define the neighborhood differently than they define the neighborhood?
Well, here's my problem in answering your question. I don't know how staff define the neighborhood. Those are direct quotes from policy 4.1.5. I acknowledge that. They're saying that the official plan states no changes will be made through rezoning, minor variance consent, or other public action that are not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I absolutely acknowledge that that's the test. But they have not given you, as the committee, a boundary for what that geographic neighborhood is. And we know it's broader than just Snowden. That's what the official plan says. But they haven't given that to you. So I can't tell you whether I disagree or not with the neighborhood because they haven't told you what it is.
Okay, so first of all, like, just fair enough in certain respects. Like the staff, I would like staff to be here, and I would like to be able to ask them questions that I'm asking you. They are not here. But that doesn't stop us from having a staff report that we don't get a lot of negative staff reports. We get some every day. But this is a negative staff report. It's not a completely cursory staff report. It's typical of staff reports. You get a chance with your client to go to staff, to talk to staff, to make representations to staff, all kinds of details you get to provide for them. They've summarized it. They've given it to us. And yes, you can say it's not a perfect staff report, but this committee is not about perfection. It's trying to adhere to the tests under the Planning Act the best we can with the information in front of us. And I'm trying to give you a chance to to make that, and I think you did, and we'll have to make a call on it. But I mean, we can criticize everybody, we can criticize planning staff, but this is a report. It's not a terrible report in the scheme of reports, and it's what we've got in front of us. So, I'm trying to help you, and I'm trying to make a good decision based on what's in front of us. And it's not intended to insult you, to ask you questions, or to even cut you off to try to get to the heart of the matter, because ultimately we don't have days to do this. We've only got a certain amount of time, and you and your client have been incredibly diligent, and we want to take that into account. That's the purpose of my questions.
Mr. Swartz, do you have any additional questions for Mr. Brownskill? Because I think some of your comments could be discussed in the comment section.
I would, but if he disagrees with me, he can disagree with me.
But we're not trying to set up a debate here. It's just I think he has answered the one question for you a couple of times.
I'm giving him a chance to attack the staff.
I understand, but I'm not sure
happy
it's
to go.
fruitful.
That's it.
Do you have any?
And Madam Chair,
Yes?
I will be very brief. I am not attacking the staff report or suggesting it's cursory. I am just reading what's on the page the same way as the committee has. And without repeating myself, and I will be short here, we have attempted to address what we agree, which is what is the intent of the official plan and the intent of the zoning bylaw. And that's by giving you the range of numbers, and that's by showing you how it relates to adjacent properties so that you can assess whether it is compatible and consistent in scale and density.
Thank you.
That's fine.
All right. Are we done with questions then? Does anyone else on panel have questions for Mr. Brownskill? No? I don't think I have any additional questions. Okay. Shall we take this into committee? All right, for discussion. Does anyone want to make comments or start off the discussion? Mr. Kibu?
Yes, Madam Chair. I think I've taken time to listen to the parties and the applicants. I've heard quite convincing explanations regarding a number of things. I think we work on the staff report, give us a general idea. The explanation from the applicant or the representative also was a quite interesting rebuttal. But at the end of the day, the explanations from the neighbors, with all the data, all the information provided, makes me believe this application will not meet, for me, I'll say really for me, will not meet all the tests, and I will not be able to support it as it stands.
All right. Does anyone else have comments to make? I'm willing to put in my 2 cents. I was just going to mention, the FSI does not concern me. Probably from the questions I've asked, you can understand why. But I think that the FSI is clearly related to the third floor. Third floor is permitted now. When the FSI limits were established in the bylaw, they mostly address two-story houses. So every application we see here pretty much has an FSI request. This one is large. My concerns, actually my biggest concern is the side yard setback that nobody has brought up other than staff. Because when a new house is coming in, I like to see a minimum of 1.2 meters, and this is 0.9. I have some concerns with that because it is a larger house in all respects, and I think that it should better address the side yard. I do have concerns with the main wall height. I understand the explanation for the dormer, okay with that, but then I think that, the applicant hasn't really tried to address the concerns of staff with the wall heights and probably could have by lowering some of the ceiling heights. So I'm mixed on that, but I will stop there and let anyone else speak. And remember, we need a motion out of somebody.
Well, I don't know if Ms. Sankar would like to speak. I've spent a lot of time on this one and asking questions, so maybe I defer to Ms. Sankar if she has something before I say my comment.
Okay, any comments, Ms. Sankar?
I guess from my perspective, I'm more leaning around, not without having anything else and that sort of expertise that, that I look forward to, the staff reports and other types of skilled reports to inform my decision. And so when I hear sort of the back and forth and debates on what the staff has said and them not being here, I still have to go back to their area of expertise in order to inform my decision making around this. And I haven't heard anything that's compelling for me to want to question, what they've put forward to me. So in that regard, I am more prone to being, careful in decision making whenever going against a report that is asking us for it to be refused, unless there's something that comes in really tangible for me with specific evidence that allows me to make that decision. So as of right now, I'm not feeling very confident. But I did want to assure, the agent that I have, heard everything he said. And I wanted to let him know that I'm, with all fairness, that I'm listening to all sides of this. And so, that's where I am.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schwartz, do you have comments? Please keep them brief.
Okay, yes, because I know I asked a lot of questions, but that really was to try to give the applicant, not to repeat their argument, but to try to try to argue against what's in the staff report or in the presentation made by the residents. That said, I agree with my colleague, my colleague's comments up till now, and particularly Ms. Sankar, in the sense that I am not a planner. I look at the evidence presented to me. We have only so much time to make a decision on this, and we get expert information from people who may not be experts, but they are compared to me. I defer to staff unless I hear otherwise, unless it's minor and there is a good planning reason for it. Ultimately, we have to meet the 4 tests. I believe the staff are saying that this application does not. I would support that for all the reasons that we've heard today. And therefore, I'm prepared to bring a motion. And my motion would be, subject to if the chair will receive it, my motion would be to refuse the application for the reasons I just stated.
All right, thank you. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Ms. Sankar, thank you. All right, all those in favor of the motion to refuse the application? That is unanimous. The application has been refused. That concludes the morning. We will reconvene in 1 hour, 2:20.